Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today we are talking about sleep before competition night. This is something that nobody seems to discuss. And I was just doing a private session the other day and somebody asked me, oh, I've wondered about this for all the UFC competitors out there, all the boxers, all the kickboxers. I wonder how their sleep is affected, how well you guys get to rest before competition night because of the nerves. And I went, wow, I should talk about this because I have so much information to share. And this is pertinent to everybody out there who's thinking of competing. Could be at a super high level, could be in the middle stage of your career, it could be a beginning fight, it could be a smoker, could be a competition like a karate tournament or something. It doesn't matter, nerves arise for all of these. And if you're not dialing in your sleep, you are not going to perform as well as you could. And I'm going to give you guys some examples of how I have suffered in competition because of sleep. And then we're going to talk about tips you can utilize to get your game on point and make sure you show up ready to compete and ready to be 100%. So today's episode is going to take place on a bed. Let's roll the intro and I will see you guys in the bedroom. All right, guys, you've heard me talk on this channel many times about how important sleep is. But in the past, I was more just referring to how important it is on a day-to-day basis when we're thinking about waking up the next day and getting a full day of training in. When we're in training camp and we really want to improve, or if we're just somebody who's just, doing our normal thing, we have our normal job and we're using martial arts, kickboxing, MMA, Muay Thai, whatever. It's something else just to improve our life and stay fit. Sleep is so important. But now imagine that you're trying to get to bed, tomorrow's competition, you're gonna have somebody trying to knock you out. And your sleep is not ideal. Your sleep is not even close to ideal. Your sleep is mediocre. How much is that going to affect you? Well, I'm going to tell you a story about how it affected me right after we thank and talk about the sponsor of this episode. We are talking about Bioptimizer's Magnesium. This is a product that I have been taking over the past few months. It is a product that I'm going to continue to talk about, mostly because it is fantastic. It has made a difference in my sleep. How do I know this? How am I not just guessing? Well, I actually have an app on my phone and an actual device that I utilize to track my sleep. And when I take it, I'm on point. When I don't take it, I go back to my normal sleep cycles where I wake up 6 to 10 times per night, and I have a long, slow period before bed where I just cannot fall asleep. For me, sometimes it is 30 minutes to 45 minutes. When I take this, boom, boom, I'm in bed, I'm on point, and I don't wake up that much. This is a company, this is an investment that you want to take the leap of faith with, whether you're believing in me or you're just gonna believe in them. Try it out, you will not regret it. Very similar to what somebody already told me. They sent me a message. One of the subscribers said, I'm not a big fan of people selling stuff on channels. Well, I'm not a massive fan of it if I don't believe in the product. But this product I do believe in, and I have no qualms about telling you guys to head over to Bioptimizer's magnesiumbreakthrough.com/Gabriel. Use the promo code Gabriel10 and get yourself 10% off and just get on this product. Something that I cannot recommend highly enough. Now let's get back on track and let's talk about one of the times where I lost a fight based on lack of sleep. At the time, I did not recognize it. I did not know it. We are talking about, in particular, this has happened a couple times actually, and I'll go into more detail, but we're talking about the first time I fought for Bellator. I went over to Hungary, and this is one of the very first times I'd ever gone to Europe. There's a big gap between my first one in Europe, which was I think 2011, and then 2017, so I forgot about how difficult that trip is, how much the jet lag hits me, and I made a massive mistake, which I've never repeated again, and I never will, that I went over to Europe only 3 days before the competition. My brother and I arrived, we tried to get our sleep cycle on point and it was not working. We were waking up at 3 in the morning and then we would fall asleep in the afternoon around 1. We would try not to sleep too much so that we could get our sleep cycle on point, so at competition time, we weren't gonna be sleeping. Like normally it would be 9 o'clock at night and we'd be just already falling over because we were so tired. I got in the ring for my first Bellator fight. I would get hit, I'd go to block and I'd be like, what the heck? I was probably like performing on a 5 out of 10 and I lost the fight. And I would look back right after and I'm like, what happened? I was feeling so on point. All training camp was fantastic preparation. My sparring partners were like, you are ready. And I just could not execute. Lack of sleep. I was not dialed in. I was so tired on fight night. And this has happened to me in the past before, but I could keep going on with stories and stories and stories. What I really want to talk to you guys about is the things you need to be aware of when you are going to be competing the next day, things that you might not think about. And then we will talk about the tips which we can implement, which I have started implementing over the past few years, which has allowed me to be a little bit more on point. So first off, let's talk about travel. People don't think about this enough. Now, it could be travel on an airplane or travel in a car. It doesn't really matter. If we're taking jet lag into account, you definitely need to think about that. And as I already mentioned, now when I travel somewhere with a different time zone, I give myself extra days before to make sure I can get dialed in. I give myself a minimum of 7 days in this new time zone to make sure I'm not too tired, because in my experience, 3 days is when I start kind of getting a little bit dialed in, but it really takes that 4th, 5th, and 6th day to really start getting focused and feel like my mind's working properly and I'm not like semi-drunk. But whenever we go and we fight in a new city, that automatically means we're not at home, which means hotel. As soon as we start implementing a hotel into our lives, we have so many things to take into account. Number 1, different noise than we're used to. Number 2, different bed and pillows. Took none of this into account early in my career, and I would get places and there would be noise outside and I wouldn't really know how to deal with it. It would constantly wake me up, just noises I'm not used to. Maybe horns honking, maybe people outside being loud. I learned, and this is my first tip for you guys, I learned that hotels are very, very difficult and the noise factor is very hard to overcome. I do have tips for you. We'll move into those after I tell you more about the problems you may face. The next thing that people don't really consider is the massive weight cut that you have the week leading up to the fight. And even on fight night, when you're going, okay, I just got to rehydrate. I got to eat all that food. I should be feeling great. In my experience, I still don't feel great because yes, maybe I'm full now, maybe I have that hydration level back up, but now I'm constantly running for the washroom because I was putting back so much fluid that for me, I need to get up 3 or 4 times a night because my bladder gets so full. And it's not because I was drinking right before bed, it's just throughout the whole day, you're putting in something like 5, 6, 7 liters of liquid, which you're trying to rehydrate your body with, and your body is just trying to get rid of it and get rid of it and get rid of it after. And then very often when you go from no eating and very limited eating to all of a sudden putting in lots of food, it's just like your body changes up, your metabolism changes up. And I just find it a little bit difficult. Some people might go, oh, you're, got lots of food in you, you should just go and fall asleep like a baby. But it doesn't work that way for me. So we need to be ultra aware of what foods we're putting in our body. And we're not putting in foods that are gonna wire us and keep us up just because we have freedom now to eat as much as we want. And of course, an additional thing to take into account about sleep is the pre-fight nerves, which you're gonna have. Of course, you're gonna have pre-fight nerves, and of course, they are going to affect your sleep. Now, everybody deals with nerves differently. Some people, it probably exhausts them and knocks them out, and they get an amazing sleep. And some people, it's probably like anxiety, and it just won't go away, and it decimates their sleep. So many things to think about, which again, coaches don't talk about. I never had anybody break down for me things I can do, things I might want to be concerned of about sleep before fight night. But why are we not talking about it? Because we know it's not a guess, it's scientific fact that sleep is going to affect our performance. It's going to affect our mental performance. It's going to affect our physical performance. So what are the tips I have? What can we do? What am I gonna be doing when I start my first fight with karate combat and I go to the second fight and the third fight and towards that title fight? What am I gonna be doing to get my sleep dialed in so I can get victories, nothing but victories? Well, the very first thing is when we head out of town and we end up at a hotel, the first thing I always ask when I go to the front desk now is, oh, I'm gonna be competing coming up pretty soon. Do you guys have a side of the hotel that is a little bit more quiet? Maybe not on the main street. And people at the front desk are always so happy to just, help you with requests like this. They don't look at you like you're weird. They don't get upset. They go, of course, we'll find you a nice quiet room. And I also go, can you put me in a room where, where I'm at the end of the hallway, where I'm not close to the elevator, or can you make sure I'm not beside neighbors that have kids? And just these little requests make a world of difference, because I had an event years ago when I was in New York, and I ended up beside a room that was having a party. And I could not sleep until about 3 in the morning. And then you got to get up in the morning to make weight. I think this was before weigh-in day, actually. And I just remember being so exhausted, having to go and cut weight. And then the next day on fight night, they were partying again. I was just going, oh my gosh, what's happening? Go and talk to the guys at the front desk. It will make a world of difference. And it just is something that people are happy to help you with. And we already talked about jet lag, but take that into account. Don't be like, brush it off. It does make a difference. I've heard that even 1 or 2 hours of time difference can actually affect you. If you're doing anything over 5, you really need to think on it. You really need to plan and get there early so you can make that adjustment and be dialed in before you compete. Now, returning to noise in a hotel, what are things I do? What are little tips I've started adding in when I go to a hotel to make sure I get better sleep? Well, number 1, I'm a big fan of white noise. When I'm anywhere where there's new sounds, like around my house, there's a lot of frogs. And the frogs are croaking, and I find it like a lullaby. But somebody else might not like that sound if they're not used to it. For me, traffic noise is terrible. Anything that I'm not used to is terrible. It wakes me up in the snap of a finger. So bringing a fan into the room with you is going to make such a massive difference. Or if you don't have the ability to bring a fan, you go on YouTube, you type in white noise, and you blast a white noise fan to make sure that you're drowning out as much as you can. I also have earplugs, but in all honesty, for me, they're just not enough. They never do everything I need to. I've also got to the point where sometimes I end up taking my own pillow because I hate traveling and not having my own pillow. I end up with a pillow that's too soft or too hard, and like, I can't get comfortable, and it messes with my sleep. Take all these little things with you when you're traveling, which you might not think you might not think are important, but they really are. They're gonna help you get that sleep on point. Now, in terms of helping assist sleep, like some people like to take sleeping pills when they go on big, long airplane flights because they know they won't fall asleep without them. I've never done that, but I am actually very much looking forward to trying to get my sleep even more dialed in with that magnesium, which we already talked about. This is something that I think will make a massive difference in my upcoming karate combat fights, because like I said, I have struggled with sleep in the past, and I'm really looking forward to seeing if this supplement, and if you guys have other supplements that you utilize, utilizing them, bringing them with you, and making sure they're helping you get that sleep dialed in is going to be so important. It's something that I'm very much looking forward to trying for my next fight, and seeing if all those, distractions, those noises, everything that usually makes sleep very difficult in a hotel for me, if that can be nullified with the magnesium from Bioptimizers. Now, we talked about the difficulties of cutting weight, how that can affect your sleep, because then you have to get all that energy, all that food and liquid back in your body right after you make weight and before fight night. And it can be difficult, in my experience, to avoid getting up over and over and over to go to the washroom. And sometimes you're eating food which you're not normally having, which might stimulate you in a different way, which makes sleep that much more difficult. So what do I do now? What little tips have I figured out to try and get that part dialed in? Well, the first thing that I've noticed is basically I have to come to terms with the fact that I'm gonna get up in the middle of the night to use the washroom, because I can't just go, okay, it's 3 hours before bed, I'm not gonna have any liquid. Like, I can constantly feel my body every couple hours going, give me more water, and I have to do it. It's not an option. I just have to do that to get my weight back up and to make sure my performance is on point. But I also want to make sure I'm not getting up too many times, so I really do try to limit the amount of water I take in that last 2 or 3 hours before bed, which means during the day, I really have to keep drinking and drinking and drinking. So I actually pre-buy all my drinks and have them piled up and go, I have to get through this much before this time. And then I have something like 500 milliliters for the last couple hours before bed, which again, like I said, I can't not drink it. It won't work. I'll have a terrible sleep and I won't perform as well the next day. But instead of chugging a couple liters before bed, I've just managed to get things a little bit more on point by just having everything planned out beforehand. In terms of food, Be ultra aware when you are out of town, when you are getting ready for competition, to be taking in food that is ideal for your body. It is very easy to get lazy in this regard because you go to a restaurant after making weight and you're like, whatever, give me whatever, pasta, this, that, and you don't think about ingredients. You don't think about the food you normally eat. You want to be very, very aware of this. It does make a difference. And I know this because I've experimented with it now, because in the past I would eat whatever. And now I'm very dialed in on what I put in my body after I make weight, and it does help in terms of sleep. You might not think it would, but it does. Now from here, let's talk about one of the most difficult aspects of sleep before fight night, and that is obviously the nerves. How do you get that constant image in your head of you competing the next day, whether it's dreams, whether it's you having your head against the pillow and just not being able to calm down? What can you do to just get that out of your mind and have a nice, peaceful sleep, and then wake up the next day and have those nerves pop up again? Well, the first thing is when you're on the pillow, when your head's there, take time, give yourself something like allotted 3, 4, 5 minutes where you really calm yourself down. Just come at peace with the fact that you're going to be fighting tomorrow. You can close your eyes, go, I'm going to compete tomorrow. Run through the whole scenario in your mind. Use visualization to go through everything. I personally find that when you have something that's scary, instead of avoiding it and having it linger and linger and linger because you won't face it head on, deal with it, and get it done. And that's kind of the idea here. 3 to 5 minutes, boom, I'm fighting tomorrow. This is what I want to happen. And then from there, you can leave it and hopefully get a little bit more of a restful sleep where your brain is not always engaging in that thought process. Also, I really like, and this is just something that I've sort of established throughout the years, watching things before bed that take my mind off the fight. Things that I find enjoyable and fun and goofy. And a lot of times for me, that's animated movies. I'll watch something like Megamind, Kung Fu Panda, or The Emperor's New Groove, and things that just remove me from that pressure of scary fighting that's happening tomorrow and just let me sort of go to bed thinking about fun, childlike movies. And it works for me. When I watch these movies, a lot of times I forget about the scary thing that's happening tomorrow, whereas I find if I watch something like a horror movie or an action movie or something drama with some anxiety in it, all of that kind of sends me back to, shoot, I'm feeling anxious too, it's fight night. So comedies, children's animated movies, that for me before bed has really helped. Competition and sleep, nerves and anxiety, the rest, interesting subject. Like I said, one that's not being dived into as much as I would like to see and talked about as much as I would like for the guys who are beginner, intermediate. As we start getting to the more advanced stage, we start making alterations, hopefully on our own, and that is what I've done. But me talking with you guys about it will hopefully help you just get things up in the head, maybe percolating, just thinking about it a little bit, making those little adjustments. So hopefully every time you get your sleep more and more on point, when that happens, you 100% will perform better. And that will make it much more likely that you will gather up those wins. Get a win and a win and a win and a win, and just have them coming nonstop. And once the travel starts, don't kid yourself, it will make a difference. So overall, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you found it helpful and interesting. And if you take the time to share it with some of your teammates, that would be very appreciated, because I like to get lots of eyes on these videos, which are not talked about very often, which people just do not address. It's important that this information gets out there. So if you have some buddies that you want to help in their career, send it over to them, tag them, do whatever. If you guys are serious about getting your sleep on point and improving your athletic performance, make sure you head over to magnesiumbreakthrough.com/Gabriel. Use the promo code Gabriel10 and give the magnesium a try. Guys, as always, thank you for joining today. Get subscribed if you haven't already. Give the video a like if you enjoyed it. Train hard. I'll see you back here soon for another episode.